So good afternoon to all of you. And today in the afternoon, as I stand before you after these two bright lectures, I literally feel like a boat drawn on the beach, listening to the dance music of a joyous ride. And being an IITian myself, I am proud to stand on the portals of this august institution that has left behind its footprints on the sands of time. Well, the road not taken. Two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made the difference. I don't claim to have made any big difference anywhere, but I only claim to have made my own humble attempts to make a difference. I am a drop in an ocean, a cog in the hierarchy, but millions of drops do make an ocean. And I feel that youth is the right time to take a decision to travel the road not so traveled. Youth, it is said, is the gay and pleasant spring of life, with joy stirring in its dancing blood. It is a time when nature invites one with 1,000 songs to share her general feast. So let me start by quoting none other than Rema Bijapurkar, the NCAER chairperson, who said, when we are talking about India, which India and whose India are we talking about? There is an India whose proud inhabitants enjoy a higher per capita income than Brazil. A larger one that is slightly poorer than Indonesia. But there is also a third one, more than double in size of the sum of the first two. That is almost as poor as Bangladesh. Most Indians do not work in the organized sector. Their well-being cannot be discerned from the subjective data maintained by Indian corporate houses. What makes them spend is a financial misoptimism that something, somewhere, somehow would work. Friends, this brings forward the great concept of citizen social responsibility to each and every one of us, as opposed to corporate social responsibility. And I genuinely feel that as a humble bureaucrat, my calling is to ensure that the fruits of labor reach the poorest man on the street. Just recalling the famous Tryst with Destiny speech, long years ago we made a tryst with destiny. And now the time comes to redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantial. I believe that it is my duty to ensure that the tryst with destiny does not turn into a tryst with destitution. Let not the locusts of despair destroy the harvest of Indian freedom. And this is especially true in a situation like today, where the canker of corruption is unfortunately eating into the moral fabric of the nation. And where need-based and greed-based corruption has unfortunately become the order of the day. The reality, therefore, is to appeal to your conscience and to follow the footsteps set in the Mahabharata, Nivartasva Kurukshetra, Bhimasena the Pisaha, Dharmete Thiyatam Buddhi Namaste Mahadastucha, the famous words through which Rajya Dharma was advised by Kundi Devi to her eldest son Yudhishthira. It basically means that the yardstick of a good administration is not whether the rulers are happy, but whether the ruled, the poor man in the street, is happy. And whether you talk about Nivartasva Kurukshetra or whether you speak about Bate Pele in the South African context, the concept is one and the same. So dear friends, I genuinely feel that the challenge before us is to make a frontal assault on the citadels of the neglect of the rural dimensions of the development discourse, despite the intensity of problems that rural India represents. True, India is fast urbanizing. You may be knowing that the 2011 census has the distinction of having the absolute increase in the urban population being greater than the absolute increase in the rural population. You are also aware that out of the 21 mega cities in the world, 3 are in India, except for Chennai. Mumbai, Delhi and Calcutta are all mega cities. And Mumbai, if it adds another 4 million to its population, it will become a hyper city. So urbanization is taking place at a fast rate. I am not saying that the urban scenario should be neglected. The slums of Dharavi by itself represent an ugly face of the urban problems that India is facing today. But all that I am saying is that the rural dimensions of the development discourse and the poor man in the street should not be neglected while formulating a policy. We are all good at formulating policies. But when it comes to implementation, very unfortunately, as I said earlier, the ethical dimension gets lost. And it is herein that as educated young men and women, you can make a difference. What is education all about? Education stands for humanism, for tolerance, for adventure of ideas, for search for truth. That is the definition of a university given by none other than Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in his famous Allahabad Convocation. What sculpture is to a block of marble, education is to the human soul. The philosopher, the saint, the hero, all lie hidden in a plebeian which only a proper education can disinter and bring to life. I am afraid that all the education you receive will be absolutely useless if you are not able to contribute your little bit to the society. And that is not an impossible task. Education does not begin with the learning of the alphabet. Literacy is not the end of education nor even the beginning of it. It begins with a mother's look, a father's nod of approbation, a sister's gentle pressure of the hand, a brother's noble act of forbearance. It means giving back something to society. I come from the most literate state in the country, Kerela. But I feel that Kerala will have miles to go before it can say there is the most educated state in the country. If literacy means throwing your garbage to your neighbor's plot when he is not watching, I'm afraid that that is not literacy. I'm afraid that that is not the end of education. So the end of education, of whatever type it may be, is to ensure that the crippled, the unwanted, the uncared for sections of society are also given a small part of whatever you have gained from society. You are all science students. You are all science and technology students. I was also in your shoes maybe another 28 years back. But what is science? Science is basically human inquiry. Science is basically human inquiry. Therefore, it can only give an answer that is somehow couched in human tools. The primitive man stood against a cliff and shouted. The echo brought back his voice. He started believing in a disembodied spirit. The scientist of today stands counting out loud in the face of the unknown. Loud in the face of the unknown. This is not to belittle the achievement of science, but just to remind you that man in his search of knowledge of the universe is like a potato bug in a sack lying in the hold of a ship, trying to discover from the motion of the ship the nature of this vast unknown. So science will be useless if there is no lab-to-land interaction. Science will be useless if the money that you earn from your profession, at least a portion of that, does not go back to the society, which has spent crores and crores of money to bring you up to this level. I'm always inclined to quote a famous quotation from Rabindranath Tagore, which all of you are aware, where the mind is without fear and the head held high. Where knowledge is without barriers, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way in the dreary desert sand of dead habit. That heaven of freedom, my father, let my country away. What is that heaven of freedom? I genuinely feel that heaven of freedom is appealing to your conscience. Is treading the path of truth. Whatever the problems may come with that. True, all of us have to be ambitious. There is nothing wrong in an IITian going to an investment banking if he is ready to pursue that profession to the best of his ability. Ambition is actually the spur that makes each and every one of you struggle with destiny. It is God's own incentive to make purpose great and achievement great. But that ambition, at least a portion of that, should ensure that something goes back to the society which has groomed you. I will end my speech with 3-4 quotations, one from Mata Amardhananda Mayi, from whose university I hold a PhD, and I have been a devotee of her for quite some time. She says, the challenge before us in the world today is not air conditioning the external. There are many who live in air-conditioned rooms who need sleeping pills to sleep. Therefore, the challenge is in air conditioning your mind. Further, the control of our mind must be firmly in your hand. Friends, I feel that this is the best advice that can be given to the youth of today, that they must be able not only to talk, but also to walk the talk. There is a famous story of a philosopher who used to tell his disciples that you have to be cool and calm at all times. So one day the disciple came to him, he was crying profusely. The philosopher asked him, what has happened? The disciple said, I have lost my mother. The philosopher retorted, saying that you are not the first person in the world to lose your mother. So be cool and composed. He took that message, became cool and composed after 24 hours, and came back to the philosopher. He found that the philosopher was fretting and fuming, running from pillar to post, complaining of a bad toothache. Sir, what has happened? I have a bad toothache here. Sir, you only told us yesterday to be composed in the event of adversity, even in the event of the death of your mother. His response was, that was your mother, this is my tooth. So we must be able not only to talk, but also to walk the talk. And the path that we choose, the road not taken, must be the path of truth, must be the path of ethics, must be the path of being sincere to oneself, being sincere to society. As a mother of the Aurobindo Ashram said, do not talk, act. Do not pretend, be. Do not dream, realize. I feel that you should both dream and realize. In some faint dawn, in some dim eve, like a gesture of light, like a dream of delight. I am sure that TEDx will carry this message down to the youth of today, particularly the budding up technocrats, the budding up engineers, the budding up managers. And a small advice, as an ex-IITian, I am very sad to note that the reading habit is coming down very badly among the students. Books are really king's treasures. Treasures filled not with gold, silver, or other precious stones, but with riches much more valuable than this. Knowledge, noble thoughts, high ideas. Poor indeed is the man who does not read, and empty is his life. So set a goal, work hard, success will come to you. Please understand that there are no shortcuts for success. Do not rest on the oars. You have miles to go. God be with you. I will conclude my speech with a famous quotation from Swamy Vivekananda, who said, what India wants is men and women with muscles of iron, nerves of steel, and gigantic will, which nothing can resist, which can penetrate into the innermost secrets of life. So arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Thank you.